Radio Migrante every Sunday night from 9 to 10 p.m. on CHRY 105.5 FM.
Let's talk about the peace talks.
Okay.
Let's talk about what's happening right now in the Philippines. And I guess before we do that, you can introduce what is the NDF and who are the peace talks with?
Okay. The NDF, or the National Democratic Front of the Philippines, is, in the most popular and easily understood terms, the liberation movement in the Philippines. It was founded by the Communist Party of the Philippines in 1973, and that would be 40 years ago on April 24th this year. Actually, we're going to have a big celebration because it will be the 40th anniversary of the NDF. And the NDF has issued a 12-point program, and organizations that believe in the 12-point program can join the NDF and become an allied organization of the NDF. Membership in the NDF is by organizations. Right now, there are 17 organizations in the NDF. You have the Communist Party of the Philippines, you have the New People's Army, you have the Revolutionary Council of Trade Unions, you have a women's organization, MAKIBAKA, you have a youth organization, Kabataang Makabayan, you have a lawyers organization, you have a cultural organization, you have an organization of indigenous peoples, you have Moro organization, lawyers, scientists, teachers, government workers, and even migrants are preparing and forming themselves to join the NDF. And the National Democratic Front of the Philippines is a clandestine organization in the Philippines. It is not, if you're walking down the street, you cannot openly say, I'm a member of the NDF, because you can get arrested, imprisoned, tortured, or even killed. It's under people who join the NDF belong to organizations that are not open and above, that can walk around the streets openly. Now, there has been an armed struggle in the Philippines since 1968, and that has been waged by the New People's Army. And when Cory Aquino became president in 1986, she initiated peace talks with, that is the government of the Republic of the Philippines, initiated peace talks with the National Democratic Front of the Philippines. And so that we have had peace talks on and off since 1986 up to today. And I'm a member of the negotiating panel. The chairperson of the negotiating panel is Luis Halandoni. There are 5 of us in the negotiating panel, and Jose Maria Sison is the chief political consultant of the negotiating panel. And all the members of the negotiating panel and the chief political consultant do not live in the Philippines. And the talks are always held outside the Philippines because we say we have to have a neutral venue. You can, if you think, let's say, there are 2 families fighting one another and they want to start making peace and starting to work at rebuilding their friendship or whatever, they cannot hold talks in each other's home. Nothing will happen there. They have to do it in another place, in a neutral venue. The aim of the peace talks is to address the root causes of the armed conflict. Like, why is there an armed struggle? Why have people taken up arms? What is the condition that needs to be changed so that there will no longer be an armed struggle? That is our purpose in the peace talks. It is to address the root causes so we can have a just and lasting peace.
And so let's talk about, like, there have been hurdles. In recent years, there have been a lot of problems with these peace talks. Maybe you can describe these.
Oh, there have always been a lot of problems because we always say we are not into the peace talks to surrender. We are here to address the root causes. And very often, it would seem that actually, they don't say it directly in so many words, but what the government of the Philippines would really like is that we lay down our arms, we surrender, and then they will say that then that would be peace. But it would not be peace because then the root causes have not been addressed. And you cannot just lay down your arms without addressing what started the arm. Why did people take up arms? Because the situation was unjust. So to have what we're fighting for is to have a just system, a system where that is the better thing for the country. For example, land reform, land for the tillers of the land, and not to the big landlords, not to the big multinationals. National industrialization, so that we would have our own industries that can support our people, so that there would be no more hunger, no more suffering in for lack of food, lack of jobs, so that the Philippines can support its own population, so that people don't have to leave the country by the thousands each day to look for jobs abroad.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the hurdles are, actually some of the achievements maybe, and it's also good to say that even if it's taking very long to achieve the final settlement or the final answer to the root causes, there have been achievements. For example, there has been the signing of we have signed at least 12 documents already with the government of the Philippines. And the most important one being the Hague Joint Declaration, which is the framework of the peace talks, and it gives the agenda of what would be the agenda of the peace talks. The first being on the question of human rights, and then the second would be on social economic reforms. The third agenda would be political and constitutional reforms, and the fourth agenda is disposition of forces and cessation of hostilities and disposition of forces. Now, we have finished the first point of the agenda, which is the comprehensive agreement on respect for human rights and international humanitarian law.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful document. As a matter of fact, other liberation movements are using this as a guide. Unfortunately, it is not being implemented by the Philippine government, which is why people continue being disappeared, why people who are imprisoned are not released, even if they are supposed to be released, and so many violations of this comprehensive agreement on respect for human rights and international humanitarian law.
What is the future of the peace talks?
I don't know, but on the part of the NDF, we will continue pursuing the peace through peace talks and through other means. But for us, we are committed to continue the peace talks no matter how difficult, because we believe that it is important, either in the battlefield or through mass struggles or through the negotiating table, to try to continue to address the root causes of the problems in the Philippines.
And we're coming near the end of the show, so I wanted to ask you a couple questions, basically for you to talk to us here in Canada. So what is your message to, both to people in Canada that are interested in helping or concerned about the Philippines and what's happening there, and also a message to Filipino Canadians that are also concerned and want to help?
Well, I think, the problem, I think, is so many things are happening in the Philippines which people, Filipinos and non-Filipinos living outside the Philippines do not know about. For example, the human rights violations, the environmental disasters that are the result of the mining companies there. There's so many things, no? And let me just, even on the question of human rights, there has been a general impression that when Marcos was overthrown in 1986, that suddenly then the Philippines was an all-right country and that there were no more human rights violations. And that's not true. There are so many people who are still arrested, who languish in jail, who are sick, who have cancer and still are not released from prison. Minors who have been arrested and put in prison. And there is the need to know more about what's happening in the Philippines and to help campaigns, to participate in campaigns for releases of political prisoners, or the different campaigns being waged in the Philippines. So that my basic message is, get to know what's happening in the Philippines and help change the situation.
Kayo po ay nakikinig sa Radyo Migrante sa CHOY 105.5 FM tuwing linggo mula alas 9 hanggang alas 10 ng gabi para sa mga balita at impormasyong mahalaga para sa bawat Pilipino.